Imagine you possess this profound 50-year-old spiritual gift for healing.
Right, like a lifetime of dedication.
Exactly. You've spent decades studying, meditating, achieving these states of existence that most people literally only read about in ancient texts.
You're operating on a completely different level.
Yeah, you have dedicated your entire life to the actual mechanics of bioenergy. And then imagine a literal Satanist walks through your clinic door.
Oh, wow.
And they aren't asking for redemption, right? They aren't looking to be saved or anything like that.
No, they want the opposite.
Right. They are asking you to intentionally unblock their chakras so they can become vastly more powerful in their dark arts. I mean, do you help them?
It is a genuinely staggering scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, we are not just talking about a basic moral dilemma here.
No, not at all.
We are looking at a really profound, highly mechanical question about the fundamental nature of spiritual energy itself. Does energy have a conscience, or is it literally just a raw power source?
Okay, let's unpack this, because that is exactly what we are getting into today.
It's a huge topic.
It really is. Our mission in this deep dive is to explore the profound boundaries of spiritual neutrality. We're looking at the hidden mechanics of esoteric initiation and what actually happens when we intentionally pry open doors to unseen worlds.
And we're basing this entire exploration on a singular, incredibly gripping narrative. It's detailed in a video from Osman, who is widely known online as the Blind Muslim Yogi.
Yes, and to really grasp the weight of this encounter, I think we have to start by establishing exactly who Osman is, right?
Absolutely. We need to lay down the foundational context of his methodology first.
Because his background is essentially the lens through which this entire bizarre event is filtered.
Right. And first and foremost, Osman explicitly states his boundaries. He operates as an energy healer, a yoga and meditation teacher, and an entrepreneur.
And he directs his audience to yogawellness786.com, which is super important because listeners can go there and download a completely free 5-minute yoga and meditation program.
Yeah, totally free. And he is very upfront about the medical realities of his work, too.
He really is. He offers natural-based therapies, but he's crystal clear that these are complementary.
Right. He never claims they are replacements for standard medical treatment.
Not at all. He insists that you still need to consult a licensed medical professional for medical conditions. He operates alongside modern medicine, not, in opposition to it.
Which is a very grounded approach for someone who deals in such esoteric practices. Like, it builds a lot of trust.
It does. And we also need to note a very specific detail about how he experiences the world. Osman has been permanently blind since May 2023.
And this is vital context, right? Because in his content, he frequently describes these incredibly vivid visual phenomena.
Yeah, he talks about auras and entities in such detail.
Exactly. And when he describes the events we are about to discuss, including the terrifying auras of these unseen entities, he is drawing from a lifetime of having normal eyesight prior to that date.
Oh, right. So he's pulling from a deeply ingrained visual memory bank.
Precisely. He saw these things clearly for decades before losing his physical sight.
Wow. Okay, so Osman isn't just like a casual weekend yoga practitioner. We are talking about someone who operates as a bioenergy healer on a master level.
The literal master level.
Yeah, and when I say master level, I mean he utilizes telepathic healing capabilities that he describes as being rooted in quantum and entanglement principles.
Which sounds like sci-fi, but he approaches it like physics.
He really does. His specialization is in critical care, recovery, and terminal illnesses. And he has been practicing this, along with advanced yoga and meditation, for 50 solid years.
50 years is a long time to refine a practice.
It's an entire lifetime. And get this, he attained his first samadhi experience, which is that state of profound, absolute meditative absorption, by the time he was 19 years old.
Achieving samadhi at 19 is virtually unheard of. I mean, to put that into mechanical terms, samadhi is the complete cessation of mental fluctuation.
It's total stillness.
Exactly. It is the moment, the observer, the process of observing, and the object being observed all merge into one singular reality.
Which is mind-blowing.
It is. And to rewire a teenage brain and energetic system to achieve that level of absolute stillness requires a staggering degree of discipline. We are talking about periods in his life where he was engaged in rigorous practice for up to 18 hours a day.
18 hours a day? I mean, just sitting with that number for a second, that is not a hobby.
No, that's an obsession. Or rather, a total dedication.
Yeah, that is a complete rewiring of the human nervous system. But what fascinates me is that despite all this deeply mystical background, his approach is profoundly analytical.
He insists on using what he calls a scientific methodology to demystify ancient yoga and meditation sciences.
And he emphasizes that the term scientific is the absolutely correct way to view this. It isn't magic to him.
Right, it is a precise, replicable methodology.
He believes that modern ailments, like cancer for instance, are often the direct result of our modern lifestyles severely depleting our natural energies.
Like we're just leaking battery power all the time.
Exactly. We live in a state of constant energetic hemorrhage. And his protocols are designed to replenish this lost energy. He even cites a 90% success rate in boosting natural immunity naturally.
And that's without relying on external energy healing, right? Just by having people follow his protocols.
Right, which he actually clarifies. He says that 90% success rate isn't some miraculous supernatural anomaly. It's actually normal.
Normal if you know the mechanics.
Exactly. People just think it's extraordinary because they are completely unaware of how to use natural energy to boost immunity. If you follow the protocol, your natural energy improves. It's cause and effect. It's literally physics.
Precisely. The ailments are reversed through practice, time, and proficiency.
And because of his own decades of proficiency, he possesses this exceptional ability to manipulate and transfer energy to those in critical need.
Which totally accounts for his relatively high treatment fees for those premium one-on-one sessions.
Yeah, it's highly taxing work. But he isn't withholding information. All the relevant information is free on his YouTube and Spotify channels. You literally just have to search for the Blind Muslim Yogi.
Right, the knowledge is free, but the direct master-level bioenergy transfer is an exclusive service.
Exactly. So, okay, we have established the reality of the clinic. We have this highly disciplined, scientifically minded, master-level bioenergy healer.
He views the spiritual realm entirely through the lens of quantum entanglement and energetic mechanics.
Right. And into this precise, ordered environment walks a client who is actively seeking to be inducted into a satanic sect.
It's the ultimate collision, really. Ordered light and intentional darkness.
Completely. So the client tells Osman his story. He is seeking extreme financial prosperity. He wants immense power.
He essentially wants total dominance over his life and his circumstances.
Yeah, and he believes the satanic sect is the vehicle to get him there. But, the sect doesn't just hand out membership cards.
I'm going to make you prove it.
They really do. To be formally inducted, this client had to complete a grueling test, a 40-day and 40-night inversion protocol.
Let's really break down the mechanics of this protocol, because this is where belief transitions into brutal physiological reality.
Yeah, lay it out for us.
The sect required the client to endure exactly 40 days and 40 nights without a single ray of sunlight touching his skin or his eyes.
Oh my gosh, complete, absolute solar deprivation.
Yes. I mean, I cannot even fathom the logistics of that.
Right. Like, how do you even do that in a modern city?
It requires a complete upending of human existence.
Yeah.
He had to meticulously block out every single window in his home. He had to sleep entirely during the day.
And he still had a job. Right.
Exactly, because he still had to maintain his life. He had to conduct his professional consultation business entirely after sunset.
Wow.
He inverted his entire circadian rhythm and isolated himself from the primary energy source of the planet.
When I first read about this, my mind immediately went to the sheer psychological willpower required to pull that off.
It's immense.
It really is. It's like taking the standard human operating system and violently ripping out the power supply just to see what happens on battery backup.
You are bound to experience a massive system glitch.
Or some kind of intense transformation. I mean, think about asking you, the listener, to perfectly block out the sun for over a month while trying to keep your career afloat and dealing with clients.
It would break most people in a week. To understand why a dark or esoteric order would use this specific tactic, we really have to look at it mechanically.
Okay, yeah. Why zero sunlight?
Well, light is fundamentally information. It dictates our hormonal cycles, our mood, our connection to reality, our perception of time.
Sunlight is basically the grounding wire for human sanity.
Exactly. By severing that wire, the esoteric order is utilizing a profound isolation tactic. It is designed to literally and metaphorically sever ties with the light.
So it's about creating a vacuum.
Yes, and nature abhors a vacuum. When you systematically starve the brain and the body of the grounding reality of daylight, the established ego begins to fracture.
The identity just crumbles.
Right. The previous identity, the one that functioned in the light, that adhered to standard societal rhythms, it just cannot survive in a 40-day pitch-black void.
It makes sense.
The protocol breaks down the old neural pathways to create a highly susceptible blank slate. The initiate is then primed to have their reality completely reset by the esoteric order.
But, okay, I have to push back here. Or at least play devil's advocate, no pun intended.
Go for it.
When I hear about someone sitting in the dark for 40 days, my intuition screams that this is just a recipe for a massive psychological break.
Sure. Sleep deprivation alone will do that.
Exactly. So is this 40-day protocol genuinely connecting him to actual dark energies from some unseen supernatural realm? Or is this just extreme sensory starvation and psychological fracturing?
That's the million-dollar question.
Because if you lock anyone in the dark for a month and tell them to intensely focus on demons, they're going to start seeing demons, right? That's just neuroplasticity running wild in a sensory void.
That is the essential tension of all esoteric practices. Are we interacting with independent external entities, or are we just manifesting internal psychological archetypes?
Right. Which is it?
But from Osman's perspective, the answer is both. And the distinction doesn't actually matter.
Wait, how does the distinction not matter? I mean, one is a hallucination, the other is an actual literal monster.
Because Osman operates on the principle of quantum entanglement and energy mechanics.
Okay.
In his framework, the internal and the external are entirely connected. If you force your brain into a hyperplastic state through 40 days of darkness, and you intensely focus your intent on connecting with dark energetic currents.
You're basically tuning your radio dial.
Exactly. You're tuning your internal biological receiver to that exact frequency. You aren't just hallucinating, you are altering your energetic signature to align with those specific forces.
Oh, wow. So the psychological fracturing is simply the mechanism that allows the external spiritual tether to attach.
You nailed it. The breakdown is a necessary feature, not a bug. It dismantles the natural defenses.
Man, that is intense. Well, regardless of whether we view it as a purely psychological breakdown or a genuine supernatural tethering, the client actually manages to do it.
He pulls it off.
He completes the 40 days and 40 nights. He doesn't quit. He doesn't cheat.
It's a remarkable feat of dark discipline, honestly.
It really is. And here's where it gets really interesting. The 40 days finally end. The protocol is complete. And nothing happens.
Right, no fireworks.
Yeah. He's sitting in his house, the sun goes down on the 40th day, and there's no grand explosion, no demons manifest in his living room to hand him a contract.
He probably just feels like a guy who hasn't seen the sun in a month and is really tired.
Exactly. So he decides to just take a walk outside.
This is the climax of the initiation, the exact moment the newly primed system interacts with the physical world.
Yes. He is walking outside in the evening. He is just taking in the air after this massive ordeal. And for whatever reason, he happens to glance behind him.
He looks back.
He looks at the path he just walked. And according to Osman's account of the client's story, he sees a literal trail of dying creatures in his wake.
A physical manifestation of his new energetic state.
Yes. He sees insects, bugs, and even small birds just perishing right behind where he stepped.
Just dropping dead.
They're dropping out of the air or dying on the pavement immediately after he passes by. And the most shocking part isn't even just the event itself. It is the client's reaction.
All right, how he interprets it.
He interprets this trail of death, not with horror, not with panic, but as his official induction sign from Satan.
What's fascinating here is the complete and utter inversion of the human operating system.
Totally. To him, a localized trail of death meant he was formally accepted into the ranks.
Think about it. If a normal person walked down the street and realized they were somehow emitting a toxic aura that killed birds, standard human empathy would cause extreme horror.
You'd feel immense guilt. You'd probably rush to the emergency room.
Exactly. But this client's brain, which has been entirely rewired by the 40 days of darkness and his obsession with dark power, perceives a literal trail of death as a positive validation of success.
His morality has been entirely flipped.
Utterly inverted.
It is so incredibly jarring. The only way I can picture it is like a grotesque, inverse version of a Disney princess.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Right. You know, Snow White walks through the forest and the birds and the mice gather around her, singing and helping her.
And this guy walks down the street and the local fauna just drops dead at his feet.
Exactly. It is a total corruption of the natural order.
And we really have to ask how this happens mechanically within Osman's framework. Like, if we accept the premise that this actually occurred, what is the physics of a death trail?
Yeah, how does a human do that?
Well, human beings possess a measurable energetic footprint, right? An aura or a biomagnetic field. Usually, this field is somewhat neutral or even life-affirming.
Right, we just exist in the environment.
But if this client successfully aligned his bioenergy with a deeply destructive anti-life frequency during those 40 days, he essentially turned his aura into a localized EMP.
An electromagnetic pulse.
Exactly. An EMP that is uniquely toxic to highly sensitive microecologies. Yeah. The fragile nervous systems of insects and small birds simply could not process the aggressive, dense energy he was suddenly radiating.
That is a terrifying concept. It implies that our spiritual intentions can literally become environmental hazards.
I physically leak into the world.
And this brings us to a massive, critical warning that Osman issues regarding this specific event. Osman states that once you are initiated into any esoteric or satanic order, once you pass that threshold and receive that sign, you are under the sway of that order for all eternity.
The concept of spiritual permanence.
Yes. Osman argues that the initiation binds you permanently. He says you might walk away from the group later on, you might throw away the robes and stop doing the rituals.
You might even dedicate the rest of your life to doing the exact opposite of what they teach.
Right. But the energetic tether remains. You are permanently altered. The illusion of freedom is just that, an illusion. You belong to that frequency forever.
Let's really unpack the mechanics of that eternal sway, because it sounds like a very fatalistic concept.
It does. It sounds hopeless.
Why can't someone just change their mind? Why is the tether permanent? If we look at it through the lens of Osman's 50 years of energy work, the human soul, or energetic body, has a specific, rigid architecture.
Okay.
An initiation of this magnitude, 40 days of extreme sensory deprivation, culminating in a reality-breaking manifestation like a trail of death, causes a foundational structural change to that architecture.
It's not just a mood swing.
Exactly. It is not like changing your clothes. It is like amputating a limb or violently altering your DNA.
So you really can't just unbake the cake.
No. You can put frosting on the cake, you can hide the cake, you can pretend it's a pie, but the fundamental ingredients have been permanently fused together by the heat of that ritual. The individual now operates permanently under the heavy, undeniable reality that they have touched the dark.
So the sway Osman refers to might just be the gravitational pull of that altered architecture.
Yes. Even if the client tries to walk toward the light later in life, he will always be dragging this massive, dark anchor behind him.
Which means this specific client is now carrying an incredibly heavy, profoundly dark, and actively dangerous energetic load. He has fundamentally altered his plumbing to flow with dark water.
He is a walking hazard.
And after achieving this, who does he go to when he wants to manage, refine, or amplify this new state? He goes to Osman.
Which is such a wild pivot.
I find it incredibly strange. If you are a newly minted Satanist with a death aura, why are you going to a blind Muslim yogi for a tune-up?
That's a great question.
This brings us to the profound tension of Osman's own background.
Right. We have established that Osman is a master bioenergy healer. But what is absolutely crucial to understand about Osman is his extreme reluctance regarding the supernatural.
Yeah, he doesn't flaunt it.
Not at all. Osman reveals that since he was about 8 years old, he has naturally possessed the ability to see the spirit world.
Since he was 8?
Yes. He was born with the innate capacity to perform exorcisms and to physically remove unseen entities and spirits from people.
But he hides it. Or at the very least, he heavily downplays it. He does not put a sign on his door that says Osman the Exorcist.
No. He chooses instead to focus entirely on his scientific approaches to yoga, meditation, and natural immunity.
He explicitly views the spiritual realm as, and I quote, a very dangerous field to tread.
We have to deeply consider the psychological and emotional burden of being an 8-year-old child who is suddenly acutely aware of the spirit world.
I can't even imagine.
Imagine being a child and seeing the true, unfiltered nature of the entities that surround humanity. How does that shape the next half-century of your life?
It completely explains why Osman views these esoteric matters with a cold, mechanical respect, rather than the whimsical New Age wonder that is so common today.
He doesn't see spirituality as a fun playground. He sees it as a high-voltage power grid.
But, I have to ask. I really struggle with this part.
What part?
If you have the absolute cure for a supernatural ailment, if you can genuinely perform exorcisms and pull demonic entities off of suffering people, isn't it contradictory to hide that gift behind a secular or scientific facade?
It seems like it, yeah.
If you have the cure for the spiritual plague, why are you marketing yourself as an entrepreneur teaching natural immunity protocols?
It might seem contradictory on the surface.
Yeah.
But if you look at the mechanics of energy, it is actually deeply, profoundly pragmatic.
How so?
Think about the nature of unguided energetic awakenings. When a human nervous system is flooded with esoteric supernatural energy without a rigorous, structured, heavily grounded container,
It goes bad.
it frequently leads to absolute psychosis. The human mind cannot process the raw data of the unseen world without short-circuiting.
Ah, so the science is the grounding wire.
Exactly. Osman's insistence on a scientific framing is his way of providing a safe, grounded, heavily insulated container for profoundly volatile energies.
That makes a lot of sense.
Think of it like building a lead-lined reactor for nuclear material. You don't just hand people glowing rods of plutonium and say, have fun with this cosmic energy.
Right, you'd kill them.
You build a meticulous scientific structure of control rods and cooling pools to keep everyone safe while extracting the power.
That makes perfect sense. His 50 years of discipline, his 18-hour practice days, the fact that he achieved samadhi so young, all of that built his internal nuclear reactor.
His architecture can handle it.
He can handle the raw plutonium of the spirit world because his architecture is flawless. But he knows his clients don't have that architecture, so he gives them the safe, processed electricity, the yoga, the breath work, the immunity boosts.
Right. He is protecting them from the very things he can see. He approaches consciousness and energy as an entirely neutral, observing witness.
Just watching the mechanics.
The energy itself doesn't judge. It simply illuminates whatever is placed before it. And understanding that extreme neutrality is the absolute required context for Osman's most controversial decision.
The ultimate test of his entire methodology. So let's set the scene in the clinic.
Okay.
The satanic client comes to Osman. The client has passed his dark initiation. He has seen the trail of dead birds. He knows he has the power, and now he wants to optimize it.
You want an upgrade.
He explicitly asks Osman for a chakra unblocking. He wants Osman to clear his energetic pathways so that he can attain even higher levels of proficiency in his dark satanic ritual.
He is literally asking a healer to help him become a better dark arts practitioner.
And Osman agrees to do it.
He does not refuse. He accepts the client.
I was absolutely floored when I read this. Osman actually compares his healing gift to an ATM machine or a grocery store.
The ATM analogy is wild.
It is. He says an ATM does not judge if you are the absolute best person on earth or the worst, most vile criminal imaginable. As long as you have the ATM card and the PIN code, the machine dispenses the cash. The machine doesn't ask what you're going to buy.
It just performs its function.
Exactly. Osman maintains absolute uncompromising neutrality. He asserts that adults have the fundamental right to choose their own path, their own independence, even if he knows they are making a massive destructive mistake.
This is the philosophical core of this entire deep dive. This raises an incredibly important question about the nature of tools versus intent.
Oh, absolutely.
Is energy healing purely transactional? Are the mechanics of the universe entirely divorced from human morality?
I am sorry, but I have to aggressively jump in here and push back on Osman's logic.
Go ahead.
I understand the ATM analogy, but I don't accept it. If you're standing at the ATM and you know the guy next to you is withdrawing cash specifically to go fund a terrible crime, and you help him type in his PIN number because his hands are shaking, you are complicit.
That's the ethical trap, right?
Yes. If you know someone is going to use their freshly unblocked chakras to summon literal dark entities to gain power over others, doesn't neutrality immediately become complicity?
It is the ultimate ethical dilemma, but let's look at it through the mechanical lens Osman is using.
I don't see how mechanics absolves you of morality.
Well, think about a personal trainer.
Okay.
If a personal trainer is actively, knowingly helping a mob enforcer get physically stronger and faster, specifically so that the enforcer can be better at hurting people, is the trainer absolved of all responsibility just because muscles are neutral?
Exactly. You are building the weapon.
The personal trainer analogy is a strong one, but we have to push it further into the realm of infrastructure to really understand Osman.
Infrastructure. Okay. Lay it on me.
Osman does not view himself as building a weapon. He views himself as maintaining the plumbing.
The plumbing.
In his view, the chakras, the energy centers of the body, are just mechanical infrastructure. They are pipes. If a plumber is hired to fix the pipes in a house, and the plumber does a perfect job, is the plumber morally responsible if the homeowner later decides to run toxic sludge through those pipes?
But the plumber knows the homeowner is holding a bucket of toxic sludge right next to the sink. The client literally told Osman, I want you to clear these pipes so I can pour satanic rituals through them.
True. But Osman's entire framework relies on a terrifyingly absolute belief in radical free will.
That's a heavy burden to place on free will.
It is. Many ancient esoteric traditions view divine energy or cosmic energy not as a moral judge, but as an elemental force. It is like gravity or electricity.
Gravity doesn't care.
Right, gravity does not care if you are helping an old lady cross the street or pushing someone off a cliff. Gravity just applies the exact same downward force to both actions.
Wow.
Electricity will power a life-saving hospital ventilator with the exact same neutral efficiency that it will power an electric chair.
That is a chilling comparison.
The morality, the judgment, lies entirely and exclusively in human agency. The power source itself is entirely blind.
That is an incredibly tough pill to swallow. It removes all the cozy, protective layers we usually assign to spirituality.
We want the universe to be apparent.
Yes. We want a parent that steps in and says, no, you can't have this energy, you're going to use it for evil. But Osman is saying the universe isn't a parent, it's a utility company.
And he is just the electrician. He is just fixing the wiring.
Wow.
Exactly. When viewed purely as subtle anatomy, the chakras are just biological mechanisms. Think about a trauma surgeon in an emergency room.
Okay.
A trauma surgeon does not refuse to stop the bleeding of a known criminal who was shot in a gang fight.
Right, the Hippocratic Oath.
The surgeon doesn't say, if I save you, you'll go back to crime, so I'll let you die.
Huh.
The surgeon just fixes the physical vessel. Osman is acting as a surgeon for the subtle body. He respects the vessel and leaves the judgment to the cosmos.
Wow. Okay. I still struggle with the complicity aspect, but I understand the rigid, terrifying consistency of his logic.
It's internally consistent, for sure.
So, Osman holds firm to his absolute neutrality. He decides to proceed with the session.
The unblocking begins.
He begins to perform a partial chakra unblocking on the client. He reaches into the subtle anatomy of a man who just spent 40 days in the dark, and he begins to clear the energetic pipes.
And this begs the ultimate question.
When you open the pipes of someone entirely dedicated to the dark arts, what actually comes rushing in?
Reality comes rushing in. The unfiltered truth of the frequency the client aligned himself with.
And it is not what the client expected.
Not even close.
Almost immediately after Osman begins the partial unblocking, the client starts to literally see things.
His inner vision opens up.
Yes. His spiritual vision, which had been muddy or blocked, is suddenly cleared. He starts perceiving the actual, tangible aspects of the dark side that he had been worshiping.
And his reaction?
His reaction is immediate, absolute terror.
He breaks down.
Yes. He abruptly stops the session midway through. This guy who wanted to be a master of the dark arts literally begs Osman to halt the unblocking. He can't handle it.
The profound irony of this moment cannot be overstated.
It's poetic justice.
We really have to look at the timeline of this client's choices. This is a man who actively, deliberately sought out a satanic cult. He willingly endured 40 days and 40 nights in total isolating darkness.
He rejoiced when he saw the dead birds.
He rejoiced and felt validated when he saw a physical trail of dead animals in his wake. He thought he was the master of the shadows.
He thought he was the apex predator.
Yet, the exact moment his spiritual vision was genuinely unblocked by a master healer, the exact moment he could actually see the entities he was worshiping his nervous system completely panicked and shut down.
It is the ultimate case of be careful what you wish for.
Truly.
It reminds me of someone who becomes obsessed with great white sharks.
Oh, I like this.
Right? They buy all the gear, they read all the books, they talk a massive game on the boat about how they respect the apex predator, want to swim with them.
Yeah, big talk.
But the exact terrifying second you lower them into the freezing ocean and actually take away the steel cage, they scramble back to the boat screaming for their lives.
They like the idea of the shark.
Yes, they liked the aesthetic of the shark. They absolutely did not want the reality of the teeth.
That is a perfect mechanical analogy. The client liked the idea of dark power as a tool to get financial prosperity and dominance.
Yeah.
He thought he was going to be the boss.
But Osman provides some incredibly fascinating context here about the true nature of these entities, right?
He does. And drawing from his own lifetime of seeing the spirit world before he lost his physical sight, Osman notes that these dark side entities are not cartoonish monsters.
They aren't just generic movie villains.
Yeah. How does he describe them?
He describes them as somber, incredibly strict, and undeniably fierce.
Fierce.
Yeah, he likens their auras, their energetic presence to intimidating, ruthless world leaders or hardened, violent criminals who invoke a primal, suffocating fear in you just by standing silently in the same room.
Their aura demands absolute submission.
That word strict really stands out to me. You
Yeah,
don't usually associate darkness with strictness, you associate it with chaos.
that is the illusion of the dark arts.
Hmm.
It promises chaotic freedom, but the reality is absolute crushing hierarchy. A strict aura is like gravity. It doesn't negotiate.
So when the client's chakras were unblocked, he didn't see servants waiting to hand him gold.
No, he saw ancient, strict, somber entities that demanded he bow. The suffocating strength of their aura overwhelmed his human ego.
And Osman notes something else that makes them even more dangerous. He says they can also take on very beautiful, entirely enticing forms.
They don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they look like perfection.
Which is the ultimate trap.
Encountering raw, unfiltered, psychological or spiritual darkness is fundamentally traumatizing.
It really is.
When the veil drops and you see the underlying architecture of your own negative intentions reflected back at you in the form of these entities, it isn't empowering. It shatters the human operating system.
The system just fries. The client wanted the 10,000 volts of power, but his wiring could only handle 110 volts.
The reality of the fierce, somber, dark entities was just too much voltage.
Which leaves us with the abrupt end to the session. The Satanist flees the clinic, absolutely terrified by his own chosen gods.
The run.
The unblocking is halted, and this dramatic, chaotic failure brings us to Osman's ultimate, profound takeaway about what spiritual practices actually do.
This is where Osman synthesizes his 50 years of observation.
So what does this all mean? After the death trails, the ATM ethics, and the terrifying entities, what is the core lesson?
Osman concludes that enhancing one's spirituality through any methodology, whether it is yoga, deep meditation, mindfulness, or advanced breathwork, is not inherently good or evil.
The practices themselves possess zero moral alignment.
They are, simply put, a universal amplifier.
The universal amplifier. Absolutely love that term because it perfectly encapsulates the mechanics we have been discussing.
It really does.
Osman explicitly states that if you are, for example, a scientifically inclined person, doing these intense yoga and meditation practices will not magically turn you into a floating mystic.
Right, you don't become a wizard.
No, they will simply make you a much better scientist. You will analyze data better. You will find innovative solutions faster. Your focus will sharpen.
The practice improves your capacity in whatever field or mindset you are already anchored in.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we see that ancient technologies of the self are exactly that technologies.
Think of a microphone.
Oh, good one.
A microphone does not care if you use it to sing a gentle, loving lullaby to a sleeping child, or if you use it to scream a violent threat at a stranger.
The microphone has no conscience.
It just makes whatever you feed into it louder.
It just amplifies the source material.
Exactly. Yoga, meditation, and chakra work are so often aggressively marketed in the West purely as guaranteed paths to peace, light, and moral goodness.
We assume that if you meditate, you automatically become a better, kinder person.
Osman completely deconstructs this dangerous assumption. He frames these practices as purely agnostic technologies of the mind and spirit.
If your underlying operating code is focused on greed, optimizing the processor through meditation doesn't make you generous.
It just makes you vastly more efficiently greedy.
It removes the friction from your intentions. If your goal is dark, as it was for our satanic client, using the spiritual tools of meditation and chakra unblocking didn't cure his darkness.
No, it accelerated it.
It fast-tracked him to a hyper-amplified, terrifying encounter with the apex of his own dark intentions. The tools worked perfectly. They gave him exactly what he asked for, faster and harder than he could handle.
Because the tool is neutral. The burden of morality, the danger of the outcome, falls entirely 100% on the user.
What an absolutely wild, paradigm-shifting journey this deep dive has been.
It's been intense.
We started with the extreme physiology of a man intentionally isolating himself in total darkness for 40 days and 40 nights.
We broke down the mechanics of how severing the grounding wire of sunlight rewires a human's circadian rhythms and sanity.
To the point where he perceived a literal trail of dead insects and birds as a demonic blessing.
And we explored the incredibly heavy, fatalistic concept of permanent spiritual sway. The terrifying mechanical reality that once you alter your energetic architecture to accept an esoteric initiation, the illusion of walking away is shattered.
You are tethered to that frequency.
We then looked deeply into the incredible life and methodology of Osman, the blind Muslim yogi.
A man who achieved samadhi at 19, who practiced up to 18 hours a day, who possesses master-level quantum telepathic healing abilities.
Yet deliberately chooses to view the profoundly supernatural through a strict, highly protective lead-lined reactor of scientific methodology.
We vigorously debated the profound ethics of his spiritual ATM. We wrestled with whether a healer has a moral obligation to refuse service to a client with explicitly dark intentions.
Or if the true nature of cosmic mechanics requires absolute, unyielding neutrality and respect for radical free will from the practitioner.
And we witnessed the incredibly dramatic, terrifying moment when the client, having actively begged for his spiritual vision to be cleared and his power amplified, was utterly paralyzed and broken by the fierce, strict, somber reality of the dark entities he claimed to worship.
A stark, mechanical reminder that the romanticized idea of darkness is vastly different from the crushing gravity of its actual presence.
All of this complex narrative ultimately leads to one profound realization. Spiritual tools, the breath work, the meditation, the deep yoga are just universal amplifiers.
They do not magically make you a good person.
They just make you more of exactly what you already are. I cannot highly encourage you enough to explore Osman's perspective further on your own.
It's worth a deep dive.
You can find his work, his teachings, and remember he offers that completely free 5-minute yoga and meditation program directly at yogawellness786.com.
He also hosts a podcast you can find on Apple Podcasts and Spotify simply by searching for The Blind Muslim Yogi.
He brings half a century of rigorous master-level practice to his teachings, and it is the most fascinatingly grounded mechanical approach to the esoteric I have ever encountered.
It is a perspective that fundamentally shifts how you view your own daily practices.
And as we close out this deep dive, I want to take you back to the core concept of the amplifier. We love the idea of self-improvement. We love downloading the new meditation app, trying the new breathwork routine, trying to unblock our potential.
But the spiritual mechanics we've discussed today suggest that before you turn up the volume, you need to deeply examine the song that is currently playing.
If simple, everyday practices like mindfulness, yoga, and breathwork act as a fundamentally neutral, universal amplifier for whatever intentions you currently hold at your core. What hidden desires, unexamined biases, or quiet ambitions are you actively amplifying in your own life right now without even realizing it?
It's a heavy thought.
Before you ask the universe to unblock your capabilities, you might want to take a long, hard look in the mirror and make absolutely sure you know what's waiting on the other side of that door.